Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMordie, and I'm still a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Raffael Ponce-Valencia, and I immediately put in a French accent. And we talked about this when I asked for his pronunciation, and I've said this before, I asked for everyone's pronunciation of their names. I would ask John Smith how his name is pronounced. But of course my French Canadianness immediately comes in. He is an incredible human being. He's originally from, okay, so let me see if I can get this straight. He'll talk about this in the episode. Originally from, he was born and raised, born in the States, but did some formative years of his life in Mexico, where his family is originally from, and then moved back to the States, and then has spent some time in Europe, and now lives in Los Angeles. He is a soccer player, or football player if you're from anywhere outside of America, turned actor. And you all know how much I love talking to athletes turned actors, because there's so many crossovers between an athletic career and an acting career, and we get full into it. He has amazing words of wisdom and advice, and he also has an incredible origin story. I'm not a religious person, so forgive what comes out of my mouth, but he had a literal come to Jesus moment, and he talks about it in this episode, literally walking through, and sun was shining on him and him saying, I need to change my life and become an actor. That's just the beginnings of this incredible episode. Please enjoy the incredibly fascinating soccer/football player turned actor, Raffael Ponce-Valencia. What I think is so great about a podcast and web series, honestly, is that, it feels like you're in someone's living room having a little chit chat.
Well, you are. Yeah.
Exactly. Literally. I'm my cat is right there. Yeah.
My dog and my cat. So if you hear snoring, it's not me.
I love it.
Yeah. It's
my favorite things are when animals come to visit. It's just the best.
Right. Yeah, he does that when he knows I'm doing things.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just wants to be included. Just wants that IMDb credit for snoring in the background.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, tell me your story. How did you get into this crazy business?
I got into it later, not late, but later in my life than a lot of the people that I know. A lot of people I know started as kid actors or child actors, and they've been doing it for a long time, and you can tell, when somebody's done something for so long. I was born in the Bay Area. I lived there for 10 years. I say born and raised very loosely because I only lived there for 10 years, and then I moved to South Texas when I was 16. Oh, wow, I'm getting my dates all mixed up. So Bay Area, up to 10 years old, moved to South Texas. I lived there for 6 years, moved out to LA when I was 16. I graduated high school super early, and then I went to AMDA, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, Conservatory of the Performing Arts. It's a super long name. And I graduated from there with a BFA in acting when I was 20. So I was just running the whole time. In between my first 13 years of life, I was spending my childhood half in Mexico, half in the States, and so I speak Spanish and English fluently. I learned a lot of things that I don't think you can learn in the States just because laws, I don't know, fires, and I drove, I think my first car when I was 8. I crashed a motorcycle when I was super young. I've had several near-death experiences, all in Mexico, of course. And then in California, I had science camp, and I played clarinet, and I loved music, and I was learning astronomy, and just they kind of go hand in hand, I guess. I don't know. But I was always interested in film, in movies, the arts, music. From a very early age, my dad would always show us a bunch of film, and and music. I grew up on Elvis and the Beatles, and as well as like old rancheras and like folk music from Mexico. And I used to make home movies with my cousins, or I should say my cousin would make home movies, and then he would cast me as the lead actor, and that stuck with me. And then we'd watch it in the living room with the family, and that'd be awesome, like hearing everybody laughing and having a great time and just pointing and be like, oh, look. I'm like, yeah, it's not going, it's on the TV, it's not going anywhere. Yeah. So that had a lasting effect on me, but I didn't really get into acting. I thought for like a Latino, it felt very far away, very like a pipe dream, essentially. So I kind of got pushed away from my mind. And while I was in Texas, well, from a very, very early age, from like 4 years old, I was playing soccer. And I was taken to like the academy to train with the Earthquakes, the San Jose Earthquakes, but that was just like an open invitation for children to learn how to play better. And then in Texas, I started playing more intensely. I played amateur at some point, and some of the players that I played with, or the team that I was on, was Atlas, which is a Mexican League division, or a team on the actual Mexican League. And I was playing in their academy, and a lot of the people I played with went off to play in the big leagues, essentially. And one day we were watching a game, and my dad was like, hey, look, it's Ponchito. See, Rafa, if you stayed, you'd be right there too. And I'm like, nice. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, and they won the World Cup for like the sub-20, and so it stung a little. But so I played soccer for most of my life. That was like the route that I was going to take. I was a midfielder, and I was a midfielder my whole life, and then they changed me from left to right, and people always underestimated me because I was smaller than everybody else. So I was obviously younger than everyone, so I was always smaller, but I had to make up for it. So I had to think as quickly as the older people. I had to move faster. I had to be there faster. I had to do this better. So that was like my whole life. I was just in a group a year older than me, essentially, a year or two. And then I played football very briefly. I realized contact sports were not my bread and butter, but I set the record for interceptions and sacks, which obviously puts me in defense, which you would not put the small guy in. But I was a linebacker, which would never happen again. But this was like in middle school, so when like people are still developing, most people are still the same height, build, everything. But I was out for blood at that time because everybody was like, oh, he's so small. Sex. And then I quit. I did cross country in high school, and then I did that very briefly. We only did it because the coaches made us do it for conditioning. It was terrible. It was grueling. And this would be in South Texas in like 95 degree weather, 100 degree weather with humidity and mosquitoes, and everyone's like running shirtless and just like dying. It just looks like people just trying to get to civilization. Like that's what it felt like. Like we were just running to try to find a town for some water, and then we do like floor routines. And it was just grueling work. And then I stayed to soccer. I played JV when I was a freshman. I did all that. I was second string varsity, and then I injured my knee, and I quit. And this was like the end of my sophomore year, going into my junior year. And I remember we were doing like assessments to try to see what career path you'd like to follow. And I was so lost because I was like, man, I only have I was 14, 15 years old. I'm like, I'm only going to have like 10 years of soccer, because by the time I'm 25 as a midfielder, they're gonna switch me out for somebody younger. They're just gonna get somebody younger, somebody faster. It's it's nothing personal. It's just that's how the game works. As like a offense, you have to be the best and healthy and young. So not for every position, and not definitely a lot of gray area and celebrity and status and everything. But I quit soccer, and I had this kind of enlightenment in Mexico one time. We were I hated going to Mexico, by the way. I thought I was going to die every time I went, because like every time I'd go, something crazy would happen. I'd almost choke to death. I'd almost drown. I accidentally almost set a house on fire. I say, hey, I was a pyromaniac, which is what I meant. Like, you can't do that here. Obviously, that's a no. But over there's so much space. Like, you can throw a firework in this pot and watch it just, and nothing happens. Like, nobody's getting hurt. But we were like running like fire drills with buckets, like throwing water on the fire. We got it off. It was fine. It was an abandoned house anyway. But I quit, and then that year I'm like terrible with years. I can't tell you. This is so long ago, and they're just like vivid memories. There was one year when my parents would force me to spend time with my older brother, and at the time we were just kind of like, because we're all 5 years apart. I have a little brother, I have an older brother, so I'm the middle child, and he would do his things. My little brother would be too young, so I'd be usually his babysitter, and that was annoying to a point. But I regret it, because I could have spent more quality time with him. I don't know. But they forced my older brother and I to spend more time together, and we were supposed to cement this big metal white cross to this hill that's in the town, overlooking the town, kind of like to bless the town, right? And I was like, that's stupid. And so we did it, and it was super rainy. The rain had stopped, and so they were like, it's a good moment to do this. So we get there, it's super muddy, we're climbing up to the top. And at the time I was a very depressing kid. Since I moved around a lot. When I was in San Jose, I went to like 3 different elementary schools, so I didn't really have stable friendships. So I didn't have like a very healthy social life. I would say I was social with my cousins, with my family. We had a lot of family, but in terms of like having a best friend, I didn't have one growing up. So I just kind of like made social interactions were kind of like I'm gonna move anyway, so what's the point? So they're in Mexico cementing the cross, and I had, as dark as it seems, I had suicidal thoughts from a very early age. And when we got to the top, where I got there first, there was this clearing, and it almost looked like an archway of light, like coming through the trees. And I walked through it, and there was just a clearing, like a cliff, and then you could see everything below, the valleys and the rivers and the rest of the mountains, and you could see that the rain was coming. And I, for like a split second, I wanted to jump, but something like held me. I don't want to get like cheesy, but I felt like something like pushed me back. I don't know if it was my own fear or my own like sense of mortality that kind of like, oh, what are you doing? And I woke up, and then it starts raining, and I start crying, and then it clears up as soon as that happens, and I see like what is it called, macaws, the birds of paradise. The sun's coming through, there's a river, and I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful. Like, life is so beautiful. What am I doing? I'm like freaking out. I start crying, and I'm like, I need to like do what I want to do. And then in that moment, I was like, I want to act. I want to be an actor. From like forever, I've wanted to be an actor. That's what I want to do. And so I told myself when I went back to Texas, I was going to quit sports. I was going to join theater. I was going to do this, and I was going to do everything I can to follow that path. And that's what I did. And then I joined theater as a junior. My first play was Little Shop of Horrors, and I was the puppeteer. And I was I played like 6 different characters in the play. not principals, but I had speaking roles here, quick change over here, then back out, and then a song here, and I'd just be, and then jump in the plant and puppeteer the plant. So from there on, my whole career, or my whole acting job or work ethic has been like that. It's been just like go, as many things as I can do, I'll do it to the best of my ability. And then when I was in college, I was doing like 6 shows a month or a semester, I don't remember, but I was like working myself to the bone. And then I graduated, I got my BFA. We had a showcase. My agent that I'm still with, artistic talent, Marcy Poulzine, shout out to Marcy. I'm still with her. She signed me, and I booked my first cartoon, and that got me SAG-AFTRA eligibility. And then I booked some Verizon commercials, and then I made like 45 grand, and then I flew to Europe, went on a Euro trip, met my wife, and then spent like 3 years flying back and forth between here. That puts us here. Now. So yeah.
My gosh,
that's a lot. I know. Yeah.
It's so interesting. I find there's so many things that I want to ask you about. First thing is, though, this is such a loaded question, and I want to frame it not a way like my initial thought.
Oh,
was
go
like,
for
what,
it. I
what
love
do your
loaded
parents
questions.
think? But like,
I don't know.
To switch from like athletics to a fine art to acting, did anyone or like parents, loved ones say that is not a logical career path?
They did. My older brother, the whole time, he's a big supporter now, but just because I don't think they've ever seen anybody close to them do it before, and so it seems like this impossible pipe dream, which is what I felt from a very young age. And I was like, you know what, whatever, even because like they knew me as the kid who was just like, everybody doubts him, but he's going to prove you wrong, because that's his thing. He just loves to like to, in spite of people, he's gonna learn this thing. Like right now I'm teaching myself violin, because as a kid I wanted to learn violin, but we didn't have enough money, so I took the clarinet because nobody wanted to learn clarinet. But I was walking to work one day. This was in Century City, obviously, because of what I found. So I'm walking up to work, and I took this route that I don't normally take, and somebody was getting rid of a bunch of stuff and just like putting it on the yard and to like give away. And on the side was this violin case with a violin inside, and I'm like, oh, the universe really wants me to learn violin. There we go. You can't see, but I have like multiple instruments on the wall that are just me, just like my ADHD, just running. I want to learn piano. I want to learn drums. I want to learn. I don't know. There's just a bunch of random stuff here. It's very cloudy. No.
Well, I think it's interesting because it makes sense with your story.
Yeah.
With to select career paths that, to be honest, have a really high quote unquote failure rate. And that failure rate, it's not like there's like here's the certificate that says congratulations, you're a successful actor. I don't know, is it an Oscar? I have no idea. Like here's a success as a football player, right? Like as a soccer player, as a musician, in these careers of, I've dubbed them like careers of whimsy, that people are like, oh, wouldn't that be nice to be a professional soccer player? Wouldn't it be nice to be a professional actor? No, I have to go be an accountant. Like, but to choose high risk, but also knowing that like that's what your soul needs.
I was having that conversation with a new friend. I think yesterday, 2 days ago. My wife will attest to this all the time. My memory is not the greatest. I remember things. I call it actor memory. Like I can memorize huge chunks of information in very little time. But when it comes to like telling you what I did yesterday, 2 days ago, I'm lost. I don't know. I can't. It's not important. I'm like 99% saturated in my hard drive, so I have to delete things in order to put more things in. And there's like important stuff up there. I can't touch it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
be very selective.
When you decided to go full into acting and build your career, was there anything that surprised you, kind of moving through like your bookings and now you're in the kind of, you're doing it? Is there anything that's been surprising?
Yeah, so I when I started, I was like you get this very gung-ho, like let's go attitude. I have learned that when you jump into acting as like it's a fresh, new thing that I want to do, I felt that I was trying too hard to be noticed. And then one thing that I heard on one of your other episodes too that was like spot on was about listening, that the more I stop doing selfish things and trying to pull attention to myself and listen to my scene partner and give them everything they need, and sometimes that means nothing, and just listen, and the better the acting I feel is. And that's a really hard thing to release control as like an athlete, as a human being. Human beings like to have some sense of control, so it's so hard to let go and not be in control. And I think that's the biggest surprise that I've learned with all the acting, because like now I'll get things, and it's not life or death, you know. I feel like there's a sense of desperation that happens when it's palpable. Like people can see it, people can feel it, like coming out of you if you're desperate. And it's good in certain environments, in certain circumstances, you know, in like high intensity scenes or whatever. It's great to be desperate. It's good to have that. But in terms of like auditions or meeting people, nobody wants to be with a desperate person. So the more I've done so many dubbings. I have one this Thursday that was like an offer. Like I've gotten to the point to where they just offer me a role, which is nice, which is really nice. It's great. And then I do a lot of animation, so that is very different than being on set. On set with people, you're not protected. I feel like you're not in a booth where nobody can see you except for the engineers, and you can like you can make silly faces and voices. Nobody's really laughing because that's your job, right? But if you're in front of other people, now there's human eyes on you, and it gives you this new presentness, or this new feeling of I have to perform. Like I have to not perform as an actor, but as like an athlete. Like I have to be here. I have to perform, because this might be the last time. Right? I don't think it will be, but I think that way it keeps me active and not passive and grateful, because the moment you're not grateful, then you're not really enjoying it anymore. Now it's a selfish game. You're just like gimme.
Yeah, that makes me think again. You clocked it right away, right? That idea of what you brought in from your athletic career into now your acting career. Is there anything else you've noticed besides what you just mentioned that you were able to bring in?
Teamwork, for sure. Teamwork. All the sports that I tend to play, even as like even as a clarinet player, I wouldn't say I'm but all of those things, orchestra or with team members, with like people, you have to be on your game so that other people can trust you. And them being on their game, you can trust them. Now we trust each other. Now we're a cohesive team. We can work well together. I know that you'll pick this up if I drop it. So now I'm not going to drop it, but I know that, and that gives me more confidence. And now I'm not going to drop it. You know, so it that transfers over for sure in trusting the director, the editor to make you look good. Even if you do some bad acting, the editor, always the editor. Great. Good to have a good editor. Great scene partners, even if they're not great. It's sometimes a blessing too, because you work through yourself to work with this person who's not listening, who's trying to take the moment away from you, and that's good. Work with it. So like in sports, like in theater, like in many jobs, you don't have time to second guess and to waste on thinking too much, or is this guy for real? Now you're not in it. Now they're in it and you're not in it. Now you're the bad actor. You can't do that as a player. If this guy does something that trips me up, now I'm tripped up. He beat me. You can't, you gotta roll with the punches. You gotta keep going, keep moving, keep evolving and changing, because that's how every career is. I feel like you can transfer methods of learning to anything. The more you do something, the better you get at it. I know medicine is a whole, but that's I don't think I could do that because of the memory thing. That's a lot of information, but that's all now we can't waste another second. We got to do this now. And then it leaves room for error the longer you take, but the faster you do these things, the more lives you can save, right? I'm not a doctor, but I just feel like when you realize that not everything is as difficult as we make it seem, then they become simpler in a minutia. If you work at it from a very, very we don't come out of the womb speaking English or Spanish or French or whatever, which I speak French too because my wife is French, and so we're fluent. But children learn from the beginning with music, with environmental stimulus, with television, with parents talking to them, and then they start with the alphabet and numbers and colors, and then you start formulating words, and then you start formulating sentences, and then nothing is ever now. It's just that we see that and get excited from the result. But I love the process, and I think that's something that acting just gives me that not many other things do, because I get bored very easily too, because the ADHD thing. I get bored so fast, so I have to I start from 0 and I get to 100, and then sometimes I'll restart just to make sure I don't miss anything, and then I just keep doing that, and I feel like it's made me a more open and like a conduit almost, the moment that I close myself off, I'm not learning anymore. That's not good for me. It's not good for anybody I love. I don't know, because I find I am the most interesting when I'm doing things that I love, and I feel like everybody is that way. So
yeah, that's cool. I read a quote once, and I can't remember who said it. I think it was Meryl Streep or something like that, that said, you only become old when you stop wanting to learn things.
That's cool.
That's when you age. When you say, I'm done, I'm not learning anything new. Then you're old. I was like, that's super cool. I like that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people looking to get started into the acting industry, perhaps maybe a bit later in life?
I think the fear of starting when you've spent so much time invested in other things is the hardest thing to overcome.
Ooh. Yeah.
But once you start, after that, the hardest part is the self-doubt and self-conscious fears and fears of failure, and just fear of your initial goals never coming to fruition. But I feel like once you get into it, the longer you play the game, the better you get at it, the better you get at rejection, because that's what we're masters of rejection. Like, as I've gone out for so many callbacks and gotten none. And I'm like, well, whatever. So I feel like once you get really good at rejection and not let that hinder your motivation, and always self-motivate, because if you're not doing it, nobody else is going to do it. Nobody is really, other than family and close friends or loved ones, nobody is really rooting for you until you make it. So you should root for yourself and know that the fear is fear. That's all it is. It's just fear. And just like when you jump in water and you learn to swim, it's the same thing. It's just sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it's faster. Keep hold of yourself, because the moment you start to lose yourself, you don't know where you're going anymore, what your motives or what your intentions or what you want starts to change. I've always just wanted to act. Like, I've always just wanted to just make film, just be on, like, just make things. And that's why, like, recently I've been starting to I built some backdrops, and then I took my own headshots, and then I sent them to my agents, and then I was like, oh yeah, I took these, by the way. And you can't really tell, they because, like, I took references from a bunch of other well-known headshot photographers who are fantastic at what they do, and they deserve the money, because that stuff's not easy. It took me forever to get, like, a few shots just like them, and a new lens and a new light, and so it's a lot. But now I know how to do that. And then now I'm writing some scripts, and we're gonna shoot them. We're gonna make some short films, get some credits going, get some more material. Like, because I'm tired of waiting. I know there's like nothing right now. Before, with COVID, and then the strike, and now the fires, and now with AI and all the streaming stuff. Who knows? Who knows what happens? So who knows when you'll get a next booking? So
yeah.
Why wait? If I'm here to do that, then I might as well just do it myself. So.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite moments from times on set or on stage?
Oh yeah.
Any funny stories?
Yeah. I remember the first cartoon I did was where one of the editors, the producers, worked on Scooby-Doo, which is huge for me. I remember going to Cartoon Network for the first time for a callback for Ben 10. And it was between me and Daryl Sabara, which I did not know that was him. So that I'll stick to that. That'll be my story. So when I remember I got up early, like super early. I was gonna get up, have some tea, do some vocal exercises, and then drive to Cartoon Network in Burbank. It didn't go as I planned. I woke up super early, like super early. My body was like, wake up, don't oversleep. I woke up and I was sick. And I was like, no! And my throat was like hurting. I drank a ton of ginger tea with I took like 3 spoons of honey. I was like doing everything I could for my throat. I put my face in a bath, and I was just like breathing in steam. And then I had just bought this 2007 Ford Mustang. I had just bought it. So it didn't have tags, didn't have plates, it wasn't registered under my name. I had just bought it. And so I get in my car and I drive to Burbank, and a cop pulls me over, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm gonna miss this callback. And I'm pulled over in the car, and the police officer was so nice So nice. I'm like, officer, I know why you're pulling me over. The car's not registered. The plates aren't on yet. I just bought it. I would not be driving right now if it wasn't for this super important callback that I have. It's for this show, Ben 10. I don't know if you know. He's like, oh, Ben 10, my son watches that show. Oh, you know what? I should be towing your car right now, but I'm gonna let you off. And then he told me that he wasn't gonna show up to court, so I can just show up, just come to court. He's not gonna be there, and then they'll just get it written off, and then I just have to pay I think it was expensive though. It's like 500. I don't know. I was broke at the time too. But anyway, I was like, I'll worry about that later. He let me go. I was like, thank you, universe. And then I drove back. This was in NoHo. I got pulled over in NoHo, and then I was on the way to Burbank, and I get up over the freeway with that giant highway overpass, and I'm coming down, and my car stalls, and and I'm like, no, what the hell? What is going on? And then I remember putting it in neutral and just taking the hill, and I was just like looking around for anywhere I can park, and the car just kept moving. I was like, please no red lights, and it kept going, green light, and then I turned straight into a parking, and I parked the car, and I was like, I'll worry about that later. And then I walked up to Cartoon Network, and I was freaking out because I was on time or early, and all that had happened. Thank God I woke up like 3 hours earlier than I intended, and I had this euphoric, because like Cartoon Network, I grew up on. I could tell you the time based on what was on TV on Cartoon Network. I went in there and it was so cool. They had like hedges cut, like Cartoon Network characters. Like Adventure Time was super popular at the time, so they had these bushes in the actual building next to these giant like Willy Wonka espresso machines. It was crazy. It was cool, so cool, and pool tables everywhere. Anyway, I walked to the green room. I'm in the green room, and then I'm sitting with this other guy, and I'm like, this guy looks so familiar. How, like, I know this guy. Like, he looks so familiar. And we're talking about, like, he's telling me about like how he was shooting in Cambodia, and the people would be eating this and that. I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. In Mexico, we'd eat iguana. Like, like it's a thing over there. Like, there's so many iguanas. They make iguana soup. And he's like, oh really? Where? That's crazy. And I'm like, yeah. And we started just talking and like having a good time. And then he went in. He was like, oh, what's up, George? How's your son? I'm like, I'm not getting this job. And then he leaves. I audition, and then as I'm leaving, I'm like, that was Judy from Spy Kids. That was Daryl Sabara. That was Daryl. Oh man, that was awesome. That was like the one moment that I had, like, what's it called? When you see a celebrity and you freak out.
Like a fangirl?
Yeah, I was fangirling. I love Daryl Sabara. I love Daryl. He's really nice too. He's really nice. But that was an interesting experience. The whole thing. I was just like from fear, like just fear, nerves, desperation. Like, I had all of the negative emotions just running rampant right before this audition, and it was great. It was awesome.
That's amazing. That's
awesome.
A great story. You kind of alluded to it a bit earlier, but do you have anything you are looking forward to coming up? Anything being released? Anything you're making? You like to promote?
Yeah. So I've been saving all my tips, because I'm a server. I'm a waiter at a restaurant, which obviously, right, untypical. And it's get a job, please. If you're like desperate and you're like freaking out because you need to pay the rent and you want to do it, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. I did that for years, and I was not doing anything. I was like doing absolutely nothing. I was a hermit, which, you know, if you do that, learn some skills, right? Do something productive with that time, but get a job, make money, please eat, because I was pre-anemic, or was it whatever. I have been saving my tips, and I've been purchasing secondhand equipment, and I am almost to the point to where I can put on a full-scale production, but a full-scale for like a small crew, very like minuscule. Like I am shooting this thing, I am editing, I am scoring with all my instruments. I can completely produce this project or these projects. And I know so many actors who are like willing to work, and I'm SAG-AFTRA. Why not like bring people that I love and give them what they need? Because they're like, oh, I'd love to get this audition, but I'm not SAG, so they never give it to me. I'm like, well, become SAG. It's so easy. Right, it's the craziest thing, not being able to be SAG-AFTRA until you work in a SAG-AFTRA production, but you can't work in a SAG-AFTRA production unless you're SAG-AFTRA or eligible. It's the chicken before the egg thing. Yeah, it's crazy. I got crazy lucky right out of college, and that like my agent, I have a theatrical agency right now too, and they got me my first series regular on this show called Phoenix, which is right now under a 3-year contract with Vizio, so you can only see it on Vizio on the action channel. But that was so fun. Like, it was my first time on an actual large scale set, and that was awesome. But definitely all of the projects coming up, like the script writing, which is very fun, and then making shot lists and planning how, because like I'll make a shot list, I'm like, Rafa, how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna shoot? You can't shoot that. I'm like, I'll build a dolly. I have all this equipment because I used to do construction, so I have all these tools. I can build it myself, and I have a friend who's like really good at like handiwork. We'll build a rig. We'll do a camera mount for the car. I'll build a dolly. It's so simple. It's not simple, but in my mind, I'm like, it's so simple. Duh, you can just do that, right? And then I'll just like come up with solutions. As if you wait, like I have a friend who I'm like, so this is the script, and they're like, but how are you going to do that? This is really like it sounds really complicated. I'm like, it is. It definitely is. But I already have it. I already know how I'm doing it. And he's like, I don't know how you're going to do this. I'm like, because I'm building everything essentially, and I'm like, I can see it. But you don't say we can't do this. You do it. Like in a script, write it the way you want to write it, and then the moment you realize you absolutely can't do this thing, then you adjust, right? Like an athlete, like anybody in that situation, you just adjust, you just change it, or you do what you can do. But if you say you can't do it, then it's never going to be done. So I have at least like 3 short films that I'm working on that I have different actors for, and that's, to me, like super exciting and taking up most of my time. And when I start to do that, when I start to focus on things instead of or on making or doing things instead of waiting for my agents to send me things and me bug them about like, hey, are there any auditions coming through, like what's going on? Like, nobody, the agents are doing their job. They'll get you the audition. Just book the audition, and then, but it's harder than now that there's like thousands of out of work actors and more competition, everybody going out for the same things. It's much harder. So the moments that I tend to focus on other things or my own things, then other things start coming in and happening. Like I get an offer for a role, or I get these, like a 6th audition for this animated series for DreamWorks that they've sent me so many times. I obviously can't say anything about it, but I'm like, I'm still in the running for this? Cool. All right, cool. I don't think I'm gonna get it, but who knows?
But they're thinking about you, right?
Exactly. That's enough for me.
You're in their thoughts, right?
That's enough for me. I think for anybody, like, being thought of is nice.
It's so nice.
It's kind. It's so nice.
Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice? This was filled with it, but no pressure. Do you have any more?
I talk way too much.
No, you do not. It was gold, literal gold spewing from your mouth.
I think so. Like before, I used to be a hermit, right? Before I was a server, and I wouldn't speak to people, and I would just like, oh man, I want to learn Japanese, and I'd like start trying to write all the alphabet out and learn characters or Greek, or like I can read Italian, I can speak it at a very basic level, but I can't hold a conversation with it. But I understand it and everything. I feel like sorry, 1 second. What was the question? I completely
it's okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Any final words of wisdom or advice?
Final words of wisdom or advice. Give yourself the grace to fail, and give yourself grace when you have and grace when you don't. I think because we are so hard on ourselves, especially like artists, especially just everybody, human beings, everybody's so hard on themselves that the moment that you do something that's out of character, or something that you don't particularly feel good about, then you beat yourself more than anybody else. And in the opposite spectrum, people that do a bad thing, and then that encompasses their whole being, and then they just get worse and worse. You need to be aware of your health, your mental health, your physical health, your state of being, because that is all we are doing, is just being right now. And if you are being, and you're being mean to yourself, and if you're filling your cup with fear, and if you're like just if you were a punching bag and you yourself were just punching the bag, like, sure, you yourself will get stronger, but your insides are pulp, man. You need to like be nice to yourself. So I guess that, like, be kind to yourselves, nourish yourselves, nourish your soul, your mind, do what you want to do in like a, obviously, like self-fulfilling and non-harmful way to the world, or to yourself, or to other people. And trust that there is a process. There is a process. It's not an overnight thing, unless you're very fortunate, and good for you. Good for you. Don't what's that say? There's a saying, I always forget it. It's don't hate what you want to become, or something. I can't remember. But if you hate it, you'll never become it, essentially. If you disdain what you want, then you'll never get it. Like having friends who are more successful, you only see the wins, right? You see the wins all the time, so you don't know what their life is like. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and then now your focus is elsewhere, not on your well-being. So definitely having a healthy mental state helps everything else, for sure.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you, Raffael, for being my guest this week. And also, as an aside, thank you to Audrey Moore from Audrey Helps Actors for connecting the two of us. I so appreciate when other acting podcasts say, hey, Janet, you should talk to so-and-so. They're perfect for your show. And was he ever? What a gem of a human. I'm so excited for everything that's coming down the pipeline for you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me and with my guests. And I hope you all will tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!